Picture a world bathed in the soft golden light of a late afternoon sun, 75 million years in the past. The air is warm and dry, carrying the scent of dust and hardy ancient plants. A gentle breeze makes the only sound, a soft whisper through the fronds of strange ferns that cluster in the shelter of weathered red rocks. In this profound quiet, a lone protoceratops moves slowly, its passage marked only by the soft crunch of sand underfoot. It is a moment of deep primal peace, an echo from a time before time. But what happens when that silence is not a sign of peace, but of something else entirely? What happens when the stillness itself becomes a threat? Before we find out, if this journey to a lost world helps you unwind, please take a quiet moment to like this video and subscribe for more travels into the deep past. And in the comments below, feel free to share where you're listening from and what time it is in your corner of the world. It's a lovely thought to know we are all resting together, scattered across the globe. Now let us return to that ancient landscape. The protoceratops freezes. It has felt a change in the air. The gentle breeze has stopped. The chirping of the small lizards that skittered among the rocks has ceased. A deep, unnatural hush has fallen over the desert. A silence so complete it feels like a held breath. It is the kind of stillness that precedes a storm. At the edge of a clearing, there is a flicker of movement, not the heavy, earth-shaking tread of a giant, but something quick, nervous, and intelligent. A sharp, bird-like cry, alien and unsettling, slices through the quiet. Then, from the shadows, it emerges. The Velociraptor. It does not look like a simple beast. It carries itself with a terrifying purpose. Its eyes, facing forward, are not vacant but focused, locked on its quarry with an unnerving, calculating intelligence. It moves with a twitchy grace, its body a masterpiece of predatory design, and as it walks, it holds one of its weapons in reserve, a single curved claw on each foot, so each foot is lifted from the ground, poised and sharp, a promise of the terror to come. We see this creature as a fossil, a relic of a bygone age. But have you ever wondered what it truly felt like to be seen through those eyes? What must it have been like to realize you were the sole focus of nature's most perfect killing machine? Let us settle deeper now and turn our focus to the hunter itself. To understand the depth of the stillness that has fallen upon the ancient desert, we must understand the creature that commands it. We must look closely at this perfect predator, not with our own eyes, but through the eyes of the creature it has chosen, feeling the slow, creeping realization of what each part of its body is for. The first thing you notice, the first thing that truly paralyzes you, is the gaze. Unlike so many other animals, whose eyes look out to the sides, the Velociraptor's eyes are fixed forward. This small detail changes everything. It means that when it looks at you, it does so with both eyes, granting it a depth of perception, an ability to judge distance with an unnerving and absolute accuracy. It is a gaze that sees not just a shape, but a target. There is a chilling focus in that stare, a clear, analytical light that seems to measure your every sinew, to calculate your every potential move. It feels less like being seen by an animal and more like being studied by an architect of ruin. You are not just in its line of sight, you are the single point on which its entire world has converged. And behind those eyes lies the most terrifying weapon of all, a sophisticated mind. We can tell from the shape of its fossilized skull that the Velociraptor had a remarkably large brain for its size. This was not a creature of simple, raw instinct. It was a problem solver. For the prey, this dawning realization is a cold dread that spreads deeper than any simple fear. You are not just facing teeth and claws. You are facing an opponent that can think, that can learn from its surroundings, and perhaps even learn from you. It can anticipate your desperate flight. It can understand the concept of an ambush. The terror comes not from its ferocity, but from its intelligence. It is the feeling of being a pawn in a game whose rules you can't possibly comprehend, played by a master who sees 10 moves ahead. As it takes a slow, deliberate step closer, you see the details of its smaller, yet no less frightening armaments. Its mouth hangs slightly agape, and you see rows of teeth. They are not the thick, bone-crushing pegs of a giant. They are finer, sharper, and curved slightly backward. They are not designed for a single, merciful killing blow. They are designed to grip and to hold. Each tooth is a tiny, serrated hook, engineered so that with every desperate pull, every struggle to escape, they would only sink deeper, holding you fast. It is the design of a trap, a promise that once the jaws close, there is no release. Its hands, too, are unnervingly capable. It has long, flexible fingers, each tipped with a sharp, curved claw. These are not the clumsy paws of a lesser beast. They are tools made for grasping, for holding, for manipulating. You can imagine them seizing a limb, anchoring the hunter to its struggling quarry, allowing it to bring its other, greater weapons to bear. There is a terrible dexterity in their shape, a purposefulness that speaks of 1,000 generations of successful hunts. But all of these features are merely the prelude to the true centerpiece of its design, the weapon that gives its family its name, the dromaeosaur, the running lizard. On each foot it bears 3 toes that touch the ground. The fourth, the second toe, is held high, retracted from the earth as if too precious to be dirtied by mere walking. On its tip rests a single, enormous, sickle-shaped claw. For years we imagined this was a slashing weapon used to disembowel its victims in a single terrible strike. But the truth, we now believe, is something far more intimate and far more horrifying. This claw was not for slashing. Its shape suggests it was a tool for puncturing, for pinning. When the Velociraptor attacked, it would leap upon its prey, latching on with its grasping hands and biting teeth. Then this terrible claw would come into play. It would act as a grappling hook, an anchor point, driving its sharp tip deep into the victim's body. And with the raptor's full weight pressing down, its own struggles would only serve to drive the point deeper, through hide and muscle, into the vital spaces within. It was a tool of absolute control, and enveloping this entire machine of death is a coat of feathers. They were likely not for flight, but for balance and control. As it ran at incredible speeds, a feathered tail would act as a rudder, allowing it to change direction in the blink of an eye. Its feathered arms could provide stability, flapping not to fly, but to stay balanced atop a larger, struggling creature. To the prey, this makes the hunter seem unnaturally agile, a blur of motion that defies the normal rules of movement. It can pivot, leap, and adjust with a grace that seems impossible, closing any path to escape before you've even had a chance to choose it. Each feather is a part of the system, a tool that helps to aim the weapons and ensure the final, terrifying strike is delivered with perfect, inescapable precision. Let your mind drift now into that ancient, arid world. Let it become the world around you. To truly feel the creeping dread of this moment, we must understand that the terror comes not just from the hunter, but from the world it commands. For the Velociraptor, this landscape is a kingdom, each feature a tool. For its prey, the entire world has become a cage without bars. Imagine the ground beneath your feet. It is not a flat, open plain offering a clear path to safety. It is a maze of sun-baked earth, cracked and broken by time. Great outcrops of red rock jut from the landscape like the bones of sleeping giants, their surfaces carved by wind and sand into 1,000 hiding places. For the hunter, every rock is a screen, every crevice an ambush point. For the hunted, every shadow is a threat, every blind corner a potential end. The sparse, skeletal shrubs and hardy ferns that cling to life here are not a source of comfort or food, but a veil, a thin curtain that could conceal a poised and silent killer. To walk through this world is to feel a million unseen eyes upon you, to know that the very ground you tread is an ally to your enemy. The landscape is not a backdrop for the hunt, it is an active participant. Now listen to the sounds of this place. In the deep quiet, your senses are heightened, strained to their absolute limit. Every subtle noise becomes a potential signal of doom. You hear the whisper of wind funneling through a narrow canyon. Is it just the wind, or is it the soft exhalation of a predator lying in wait? A single pebble skitters down a rock face. Was it loosened by a passing breeze, or by the deliberate silent placement of a clawed foot? The psychological toll of this constant vigilance is immense. It is an exhaustion of the spirit, a relentless tension that wears you down minute by minute. The world is a cacophony of false alarms, each one sending a spike of adrenaline through you, leaving you weaker, more frayed, more prone to the single mistake that will be your last. You are drowning in a sea of sensory information, desperately trying to find the one true signal of danger in a world of deceptive whispers. And in this world, the Velociraptor is not the only source of fear. There are giants here. Far in the distance, you might hear the heavy tread or the deep, resonating roar of a much larger predator, like a Tarbosaurus, a cousin to the mighty T-Rex. That is a primal, obvious terror. It is the fear of an earthquake, of an avalanche, a force of nature you can see and hear from a great distance. It is a fear you can perhaps react to. But the presence of this greater danger makes the silence of the Velociraptor all the more insidious. You might spend all your energy watching the horizon for the giant, listening for the thunderous footfalls, and in doing so, you miss the subtle threat right beside you. The Velociraptor is the fear of the unseen, the silent, the intelligent. It is the assassin's blade in a world of clumsy giants, a quiet personal threat that thrives in the shadow of the larger, more obvious one. But how does a predator that relies on surprise decide on the perfect moment to strike? What subtle signs might betray its lethal patience? We will explore that stillness soon. For now, consider the most chilling possibility of all. A possibility that turns the landscape from a simple hunting ground into a perfectly orchestrated trap. What if the silence you hear is not the breath of a single hunter, but of many? While we can't know for sure, the idea that velociraptors may have hunted together in coordinated groups is a truly terrifying thought. If so, the flicker of movement you see to your left is not the true threat. It is a distraction, a performance designed to draw your eye, to fix your attention. The real danger comes from the right and from behind, from the silent partners you never saw. The rustle in the ferns is meant to make you run toward the open space, where another hunter waits, crouched and low. The single bird-like call is not a cry of aggression, but a signal, a piece of communication in a language of death. Suddenly, the world is no longer just a landscape of potential hiding spots. It is a thinking, coordinated network. The fear is no longer of being caught by a predator. It is the fear of being herded, of being outwitted, of having your own instincts for survival used as a weapon against you by a collective intelligence. Every escape route is an illusion, every path to safety a corridor in a maze designed by your killers. Let us sink deeper into this quiet ancient world, into the heart of this terrible stillness. The true terror of the hunt is not always in the chase, but in the waiting. It is a slow, creeping dread that begins long before the first tooth is bared. Let your mind become the mind of the prey, and feel the slow, methodical unravelling of your world. It begins not with a sound or a sight, but with a feeling, a pressure change in the air, a profound and sudden emptiness, where there was once the gentle hum of life. The small skittering lizards that were basking on the warm rocks have vanished. The insects that droned in the dry air have fallen silent. The world has taken on the quality of a vacuum. This is the first and most unnerving sign. The other creatures of this place, the ones who live their lives in the margins, have sensed the predator's presence. Their collective silence is a deafening alarm bell, a shared secret of the hunted that you are now a part of. The peace you felt only moments ago is revealed to be a fragile illusion, and its absence leaves you exposed and utterly alone. You are in the center of a circle of silence, and the silence is the shape of your hunter. Your senses, now screamingly alert, begin to search for a confirmation of what your deepest instincts already know. Your eyes scan the ridgeline, the shadows beneath the rocks, the edges of the fern groves. And you see it. Or you think you do. A flicker of movement at the very edge of your vision. It is so fast, so subtle, you cannot be sure. Was it a feathered tail disappearing behind a boulder? Or was it just a leaf caught in a sudden updraft? Your mind races, trying to solve the puzzle, but the doubt itself is a form of torture. The hunter is playing in the space between what is real and what is imagined, forcing you to question your own senses. Then you look down, and your blood runs cold. There, in the soft orange sand, is a track. but it is a strange and alien print. It shows only 2 toes pressed into the ground. A third, was held aloft. The mark of the sickle claw. The evidence is undeniable. It has been here. It is here now. The track is fresh. This is no longer a feeling or a guess. It is a certainty. You are being watched. You can feel the weight of its gaze upon you, a physical pressure on the back of your neck. It is a calculating, patient stare that you cannot see, but you feel in your very soul. You have been chosen. The hunter does not need to rush. Time is its ally. It uses the world against you with an artist's skill. It keeps the sun at its back, so that when you look in its direction, you are partially blinded by the glare. It moves on the downwind side of you, so its scent is carried away on the breeze, denying your nose the warning it so desperately seeks. It remains low to the ground, its feathered coat a perfect camouflage, a tapestry of mottled browns and reds that blends seamlessly into the desert landscape. The world that has been your home, your source of sustenance, has been turned against you. Every feature that once offered comfort now offers concealment for your enemy. This is the art of the stalk, and it is a battle fought not with claws, but with nerves. The Velociraptor may do more than simply wait. It may begin to test you, to play a cruel psychological game. A sudden loud cry may erupt from the rocks to your left, making you flinch and turn, only for the silence to return, deeper than before. You might see a deliberate flash of movement, a brief and controlled appearance from behind a distant shrub, just long enough for you to register its presence before it vanishes again. It is gauging your reaction. It is studying your fear. It is learning how you will run by forcing you to take a few panicked steps. It is mapping your escape routes before the chase has even begun. This is the height of predatory intelligence. The terror is not allowed to be a sudden, sharp event. It is drawn out, stretched until it is thin and frayed, like a nerve-worn roar. You are made to live with the certainty of the coming attack, and in this agonizing pause, your strength is sapped, your resolve is eroded, and your will to survive begins to splinter. The hunt is already underway, and it is taking place entirely within your own mind. How long can this terrible stillness last? And what happens when the silence is finally broken, not by the hunter's approach, but by a sound designed to shatter your last defenses? The world has been silent for so long that the quiet has become a physical presence, a heavy blanket smothering the landscape. And then the silence breaks. It is not with a roar or a charge, but with a sound you cannot place. A sharp guttural click, like 2 stones being struck together, echoes from the rocks to your left. Before you can fully turn your head, a different sound answers it from the right, a low, throaty hiss that seems to seep from the very ground itself. You are frozen in the middle of a conversation spoken in a language of pure menace. What did a velociraptor truly sound like? We can only listen to the echoes of its lineage, to its distant relatives that still walk the earth today. Think of the deep, resonant rumbles of a crocodile, sounds that are felt as much as they are heard. Imagine the sharp, intelligent chirps and complex calls of a bird of prey. Now merge them. The velociraptor's voice was likely not a single monstrous roar, but a versatile and terrifying toolkit of sounds. It was capable of a whole spectrum of vocalizations, each with a purpose. That sharp click could be a signal, the hiss could be a warning, and there may have been others, deep bird-like calls that could carry for miles, or soft, breathy sounds used to communicate in the final silent moments of an approach. To the prey, this symphony of dread is a form of psychological warfare. You are bombarded with stimuli from multiple directions, your senses overloaded, your ability to locate the source of the danger completely shattered. Even if it is a single hunter, its mastery of sound and the landscape allows it to create the terrifying illusion of a pack. It calls from behind a line of ferns, and in the instant you turn your head, it has already sprinted, silent as a shadow, to a new position on the other side of you, calling again. It is a ghost in the rocks, a voice that is everywhere and nowhere at once. Your mind frantically tries to build a map of your enemies, but they are phantoms, constantly shifting, their numbers multiplying in your imagination, until you feel hopelessly, utterly surrounded. This intelligent hunter does not rely on sound alone. It uses the world as its instrument of misdirection. With a sudden explosive movement, it might launch a spray of sand and pebbles into the air just beyond a rocky outcrop. Your eyes are drawn to the commotion, your instincts screaming that the attack is coming from that one spot. But it is a trick, a piece of theatre. While your attention is fixed on the performance, the real threat is circling, using those precious seconds of your distraction to close the distance from the one direction you are no longer watching. It might startle a flock of small bird-like creatures, sending them scattering into the air from a thicket to your right, forcing you to look while it emerges from the left. Your own survival instincts, the reflexes that have kept you alive until this day, are now being used as weapons against you. Every attempt to anticipate the attack only leads you deeper into the trap. And then comes the final, overwhelming element, speed. Just as your mind is reeling, caught in this web of sound and illusion, the attack begins. It is not a charge you can track. It is an explosion of movement. In one moment, the predator is a voice in the rocks, a phantom in the shadows. In the next, it is a blur of feathers and claws, erasing the distance between you with a speed that your mind simply cannot process. The world becomes a smear of red rock and pale sky. There is no time to think, no time to choose a direction, no time to react. The mental confusion it has so carefully crafted now pays its final, lethal dividend. The hesitation born from the conflicting sounds, the moment of doubt caused by the misdirection, that is all the time it needs. Your legs feel heavy, your thoughts sluggish, as if you are moving through water while it is moving through air. The hunter has conquered your mind before its claws have even touched you. The terror is no longer a slow, creeping dread, but a sudden, roaring wave of panic and sensory overload. The world has been reduced to a storm of chaos you cannot navigate. The mind has been shattered by confusion, the senses overwhelmed by this masterful assault. What happens in the final moment, when the illusion gives way to a brutal physical reality? Breathe slowly now, and let the chaos of the chase dissolve. The world, which was a blur of panicked motion, now snaps into a terrifying, singular focus. The final encounter has begun. The Velociraptor does not charge into its prey like a mindless brute. It closes the final distance with a leap of breathtaking athleticism, an arc of feathered fury that is both beautiful and utterly terrible. There is a sudden, shocking impact, a weight that drives the air from the lungs. The first contact is not a bite, not a slash, but the feeling of being seized by a living storm. The predator is now on you, its long, grasping fingers digging into your flank, its teeth finding a purchase in the thick hide of your back. But these are just anchors. They are the predator's way of latching itself to you, of binding the hunter and the hunted into a single, struggling entity. This is the beginning of what scientists call raptor-prey restraint, a theory far more horrifying than any simple attack. The Velociraptor has become a part of you, an inescapable burden you must now carry, and its intention is not to end the struggle quickly, but to control it completely. And as you stagger under this new, impossible weight, you feel a strange, rhythmic beating against your side, a dry, whispery flapping. You see the shadow of its feathered arms, its wings, not lifting it into the air, but holding it steady. Like a rider on a wild beast, it uses these feathers to maintain its balance, to shift its center of gravity, to counter your every desperate attempt to throw it off. You are being ridden by your own death, a feathered demon clinging to your back, its every movement a calculated adjustment to ensure it remains in absolute control. The sight is surreal, a nightmare brought to life. A creature of the earth has taken to the air, not to fly, but to master you. Now, with its grip secure and its balance perfect, the true weapon is brought to bear. The terrible sickle claw, which was held so carefully away from the ground, is lowered. It does not slash wildly. Its work is slow, methodical, and hideously precise. You feel a point of sharp, focused pressure against your side as the raptor begins to put its weight and the strength of its powerful leg behind that single claw. It is not a cut, it is a puncture, a deep piercing probe that pushes through skin and muscle and sinew. It is the feeling of being pierced by a living dagger, driven by a thinking, intelligent mind. With the claw anchored deep within you, the predator's work begins. It is a slow, repeated pumping motion, a piston of bone and keratin that drives deeper with every pulse. The raptor is using its perch atop you to systematically and patiently dismantle you from the inside out. There is no single decisive blow. There is only a slow unwinding of life's intricate knot, a methodical ruin being wrought deep within you. It is the most intimate of violations, a predator that kills you not from the outside, but from your very core. Let your mind drift into that final, terrible experience. The world begins to narrow. There is the crushing weight on your back, the gripping pain of the claws in your flesh, the hot, dry breath of the predator near your head. There is the sound, the ragged breathing of the raptor, the dry flap of its feathers, and the sickening, deep punctuation of the claw doing its work. You can see its eye, perhaps, just inches from your own, and in that eye you see no rage, no fury. You see only a cold, serene, and absolute focus. It is the calm, detached concentration of a craftsman at his work. A final, desperate surge of strength ripples through your body, but it is useless. The predator, with its perfect balance, simply absorbs the motion. Your strength fades, not in a rush, but like a slow tide going out. The sharp pains begin to dull into a vast, spreading ache. The world, which was a kaleidoscope of terror, begins to fade at the edges, the bright desert sun turning to a soft, indifferent grey. The struggle is over. The hunter's work is done. The last of the warmth leaves the body. The bright desert sun fades into a gentle, dreamless dark. The struggle is over. The great silence that began the hunt has returned, but it is a different kind of quiet now. It is the silence of an ending. We have just walked through a gallery of terror, a masterclass in fear taught by one of history's most formidable predators. We have felt the cold dread of its intelligent gaze, the chilling purpose in its every anatomical gift. We have experienced the psychological torture of its patient stalk, the overwhelming chaos of its attack, and the final, intimate brutality of a kill designed not for speed, but for absolute, inescapable control. This creature, this nightmare of feathers and claws, was not an accident of nature, it was an answer. This pinnacle of predatory perfection was sculpted over millions of years by an evolutionary arms race. For every predator that grew faster, smarter, and more lethal, the prey grew more wary, more agile, and more desperate to survive. The terror we have just witnessed was a byproduct of this relentless ancient dance. It was the price of life in a world where survival was a prize won by the narrowest of margins. The Velociraptor was not cruel. It was simply a perfect solution to a very difficult problem. And as the last echo of our victim's story fades, we are left with a profound question. We have seen the end result. We have felt the fear, but the predator's work is just beginning. What happens next? We have seen the what, but we have not yet understood the how. The terror we've explored was not born from random violence. It was the outcome of a precise and calculated strategy. So how did this relatively small hunter manage to take down prey much larger than itself? When it hunted with others, how did a pack coordinate its efforts without a single word? What techniques did it use to ensure its success against a world of powerful and dangerous creatures? To truly understand the master, we must now leave the mind of the hunted and dare to look through the eyes of the hunter itself. We must shift our focus from the feeling of fear to the art of the hunt. In our last journey together, we settled into the heart of a primal fear. We inhabited the mind of the hunted, feeling the world through its senses. We felt the unnerving weight of a predator's gaze, the sudden, sharp silence that fell upon the landscape, and the final, overwhelming chaos of the attack. We experienced the hunt as an act of pure terror, a masterpiece of dread painted on a canvas of ancient sand and rock. But now, let us gently let go of that fear. Let us allow the dust to settle, and as we do, let us shift our perspective. It is time to step out of the shadow of the victim and into the brilliant, calculating mind of the predator itself. To truly understand the Velociraptor, we must see the hunt not as an act of cruelty, but as a display of immense and intricate skill. It was a biological art form, a symphony of strategy and instinct perfected over millions of years. The terror it created was not its goal, but merely the consequence of its incredible lethal efficiency. We will now explore the mind of the artist to understand the decisions behind every movement, the logic behind the lethal grace. We will gently pose the questions that lie at the heart of this creature's existence. How did a predator, often weighing less than a modern wolf, devise strategies to tackle prey many times its own size? Was it a creature of solitary ambush, a lone assassin relying on audacity and surprise? Or was it something more complex, a social animal, a member of a coordinated team that used communication and shared strategy to overwhelm its victims? In this quiet journey, we will become patient investigators of the deep past. We will examine the faintest of clues left behind in stone, like memories preserved for an eternity. We will trace the outlines of fossilized footprints, study the marks of teeth on ancient bone, and gaze upon skeletons locked in their final, desperate moments. Each piece of evidence is a quiet word in a long-forgotten story. But before we can choreograph the complex dance of a pack or analyze the nerve of a solitary attack, we must begin with the evidence itself. How can a single fossil, a silent piece of stone, tell such a vivid, dynamic story of a life and death struggle? The clues are fainter than a whisper on the wind, yet when we listen closely, they speak volumes about the brilliant, brutal reality of the Velociraptor's world. Let us now imagine ourselves in a vast, quiet desert, not in the distant past, but in our own time. The sun is warm, the air is still, and before us lies the work of paleontologists, gently brushing away the dust of ages from a discovery that will change everything we thought we knew. The stories of the hunt are not imagined. They are written in stone, and we are here to read them. The most incredible chapter of this stone story is a fossil unlike any other, a single breathtaking scene known as the fighting dinosaurs. Imagine a moment of pure, savage violence, captured and frozen for 75 million years. Preserved in a landslide of sand, a velociraptor and a protoceratops are locked in an eternal, silent struggle. As we look closer, the details of their final moments emerge. The velociraptor is not simply attacking, it is committed. Its left hand is gripped by the powerful bone-crushing beak of the protoceratops, its arm bones shattered. Yet even in this moment of agony, the raptor is still fighting. Its left foot is planted on the ground for leverage, while its right foot is raised, the terrible sickle claw driven deep into the throat region of the larger herbivore. Let this silent story unfold in your mind. This is not the clean, simple ambush of a predator overwhelming helpless prey. This is a duel. It is a testament to the incredible ferocity and tenacity of both animals. It tells us that the velociraptor engaged in extraordinarily risky close-quarters combat. It shows, with perfect clarity, the intended function of that famous claw, not for slashing, but for a targeted, piercing strike at a vital, vulnerable area. And most importantly, it reveals that the prey was not a passive victim. It was a powerful and dangerous adversary, capable of inflicting a mortal wound. The raptor's hunt was a gamble of the highest stakes. Now let us pull our focus back from this single dramatic scene and look for other, more subtle clues. Imagine a vast, petrified mudflat, where the footprints of dinosaurs are preserved like photographs. In China, paleontologists discovered a set of these trackways, a page from the daily life of dromaeosaurs. The tracks do not show a single animal walking alone. Instead, they reveal 6 parallel paths, all moving together in the same direction at the same speed. Listen to the story these footprints tell. This is not a random gathering. This is the mark of a social group. Just as a pack of wolves might travel across the tundra, these creatures were moving as a coordinated unit. The stone holds the faint echo of their shared purpose, the silent whisper of a collective. While it does not show a hunt in progress, it gives us the foundational evidence for pack behavior, transforming our image of the velociraptor from a solitary assassin into a member of a formidable team, and the clues become even finer. Elsewhere, among the scattered bones of a Tenontosaurus, a large herbivore far too big for a single small raptor to kill, scientists found a telltale sign. Sprinkled among the remains were the shed teeth of a closely related dromaeosaur, Deinonychus. Think of what this means. Multiple teeth lost during the violent act of feeding from more than one individual, all found with the body of a single massive prey animal. This is the prehistoric equivalent of a crime scene. It is powerful, compelling evidence that a group of these predators fed together, and it is a very short leap to assume that what fed together also hunted together. Each of these discoveries, from the epic jewel frozen in stone to the parallel tracks in the mud, and the tiny lost teeth among the bones, helped to build a new understanding. Paleontologists began to see that these were not the slow, simple reptiles of old paintings. They were active, dynamic, intelligent, and social animals. The stones and bones are a quiet testament to their complex lives. They give us a tantalizing glimpse into what they hunted and the brutal reality of the struggle, but they don't fully explain how. How could a single 100-pound predator realistically tackle an animal weighing over a ton? To do that required more than just weapons. It required a brilliant and audacious plan. Let the story of the stones settle in your mind, the silent evidence of struggle and community. Now let us use that evidence to build a picture, to reconstruct a single breathtaking moment. Let us first imagine the Velociraptor not as a member of a pack, but as a solitary hunter, a lone artist of ambush. To understand its strategy, we can look to the skies today, to the great hawks and eagles, for they are the living heirs to this ancient legacy. This theory is known as raptor-prey restraint, and it paints a picture of a hunter that was, in essence, a giant bird of prey that had mastered the earth instead of the air. Imagine the scene. A lone raptor, hidden, patient, watches its chosen quarry. Its attack is not a long, drawn-out chase, but a sudden, devastating explosion of speed from a concealed position. It bursts from the cover of rocks or ferns, a low, feathered missile closing the distance in just a few heartbeats. The primary move, the centerpiece of this entire strategy, is the leap. With astonishing power, it launches itself not at its prey, but on toit, aiming for the broad, difficult-to-defend expanse of the back or flank. The moment of impact is a shock, a fusion of two bodies into one struggling form. Instantly, the raptor's tools are deployed, but not in the way we might expect. Its long-fingered hands grasp handfuls of hide, its teeth sink into the flesh below. But these are not the killing blows. They are anchors. They are grappling lines. Their purpose is to latch the hunter to its much larger, much stronger victim, to make them inseparable. The raptor has made a conscious choice to enter a world of violent motion, and it has anchored itself to the epicenter. And now, with its place secured, the sickle claw finally enters the story. It is not slashed wildly. It is brought forward with deliberate, focused intent. The raptor shifts its weight, using the powerful muscles of its leg to drive the sharp point of the claw deep into the prey's body. It becomes a pivot point, a climbing spike, pinning the hunter to its quarry. It is now riding the storm, and with this terrible anchor, it can begin to take control. To perform such a feat requires a body of almost impossible athleticism, and the Velociraptor was perfectly designed for the task. This is where its feathers become so much more than simple insulation. As the large herbivore twists and bucks, trying desperately to dislodge the predator from its back, the raptor's feathered arms would come into play. It would flap its wings, not to fly but to maintain its balance, making thousands of tiny instantaneous adjustments. It is the same principle a tightrope walker uses with their arms, creating stability in a world of constant motion. Its long, rigid tail, stiffened with bony rods, would act as a third leg, a dynamic counterbalance, swinging from side to side to ensure that no matter how violently the prey struggled, the raptor remained securely on top, in the one place where the prey's own defenses could not reach it. From this dominant position, the final grim stage of the hunt would unfold. The RPR model suggests the kill was not quick. Secured to the victim's back, safe from horns or a snapping beak, the raptor was free to use its weapons. It could bite repeatedly at the neck and spine, or use its sickle claw to inflict deep, grievous wounds. The prey would ultimately die not from a single, merciful strike, but from exhaustion, shock, and blood loss. It is a grim image, yet it is a masterpiece of evolutionary problem solving. A smaller predator creating a strategy that allows it to neutralize the size and strength of a larger animal, and systematically, patiently bring it down. This model of a lone, fearless hunter, an oversized eagle tethered to the earth, is compelling and supported by the raptor's incredible anatomy. But the fossil record still whispers of something more, of numbers, of cooperation. So what happens when you take this audacious individual strategy and multiply it by 5, or even 10? How does the very nature of the hunt change when the lone assassin becomes part of a deadly, intelligent team? Let the image of the lone, audacious hunter settle and fade. Now let us take that picture of deadly competence and multiply it. Imagine not 1, but 5, or 10 of these creatures emerging from the shadows. The hunt is no longer a duel, it has become a symphony. A coordinated group transforms the landscape into a chessboard, where every move is calculated, every piece moved with a shared and silent understanding. To grasp the complexity of this pack, we can listen to the echoes of their strategies, which still resonate in the world's greatest predators today. Think of a pack of wolves, flowing like a river across a vast, open plain. They do not rush in blindly. They test their prey, a large moose or bison, with probing attacks. They are masters of endurance, running for miles, harrying their quarry, forcing it to expend its energy, waiting for the one moment of weakness. The Velociraptor pack, with their high-endurance, warm-blooded bodies, would have been capable of the same relentless pursuit. Now picture a pride of lions, hidden in the tall, golden grass of the savannah. They understand the art of the ambush on a grand scale. Some lionesses will deliberately show themselves, driving the herds of wildebeest away from them, while the true hunters of the pride lie in wait, silent and unseen, along the escape route. It is a plan, a division of labour. We can imagine the Velociraptor pack doing the same, some members acting as drivers, while others lay in wait behind a rocky outcrop, ready to spring the trap. Perhaps the most compelling echo comes from the scout. The Harris's hawk, a bird of prey, is one of the few known to hunt cooperatively. They will work together, one hawk flushing a rabbit from a dense thicket, while its partner swoops in to make the catch. It is a shared, intelligent strategy, and this bird is a not-so-distant relative of our Velociraptor. The raptor pack was likely capable of this same level of sophisticated teamwork. Let us now use these echoes to paint a picture of the prehistoric hunt. It begins with a language that has no words. The sharp click we heard before is now a signal, a way of saying, "I am here." A subtle flick of the long, stiff tail could mean, "Prepare to move." The members of the pack communicate through a complex ballet of posture, gaze, and sound, a silent and deadly conversation that allows them to coordinate their movements with breathtaking precision. Within this silent conversation, different members may have had different roles. Imagine the younger, more agile raptors acting as the flankers. Their job is to harry the herd, to create confusion, to test the defenses of the group, and identify the weakest individual. They are a constant buzzing annoyance, darting in and out, their speed and agility making them impossible to pin down. Meanwhile, the larger, more experienced members of the pack, the veterans, may hold back. They are the strikers. They conserve their energy, watch the chaos unfold, and wait for the flankers to successfully separate one animal from the safety of its herd. Once the target is chosen, the true strategy begins. A single raptor might make a bold feint from the front, a sacrificial move designed to draw the prey's full attention and its primary defenses, be it a sharp beak or a set of horns. In that moment, as the victim commits to defending against the threat it can see, the rest of the pack explodes from the sides and the rear. They would use the landscape as their accomplice, funneling a panicked animal down a narrow ravine where it cannot turn, or towards a steep cliff edge where it has nowhere left to run. The trap is sprung not just by the pack, but by the world itself. And in the final moments, they could combine their numbers with the audacious strategy of the lone hunter. Imagine 2, 3, or even 4 raptors performing the prey restraint technique at once. They leap onto the back of a large animal, their combined weight and synchronized attack overwhelming it in an instant. The victim, or which might have been able to fight off a single attacker, now collapses under the unified, inescapable assault of the entire team. A coordinated pack, armed with such lethal weapons and guided by a collective intelligence, seems almost unstoppable, but their world was not filled with helpless victims. They hunted creatures that had spent millions of years evolving powerful and effective defenses. So how did the Velociraptor's strategy overcome the formidable armor, size, and power of its chosen prey? Let us now imagine the world through the raptor's intelligent eyes, seeing not just prey, but a series of complex puzzles. Each creature they hunted was a fortress, protected by millions of years of evolution. The Velociraptor's success lay in its ability to find the key to each one, to devise a unique strategy for every defense it faced. Let us look at 3 of these puzzles and discover how the raptor's mind, and its pack, would have worked to solve them. First, consider the Protoceratops, the very animal we saw locked in eternal combat with its attacker. This was no gentle, peaceful plant-eater. It was a bulldog of a dinosaur, stocky and powerful, with a formidable bone-crushing beak, capable of inflicting a devastating bite. Its large frill was not just for show, it was a shield for its vulnerable neck. This was a creature that would stand its ground and fight. A frontal assault for a lone raptor would be suicide. So, how did the pack solve this puzzle? They used their numbers to create a deadly illusion. 1 or 2 raptors would approach from the front, making a great show of their presence. They would feint and dart, keeping the Protoceratops' attention fixed, its dangerous beak pointed toward them. This was a performance, a piece of theatre designed to distract. As the Protoceratops focused on the visible threat, the true danger would emerge from the sides. Other members of the pack would use this window of opportunity to attack the exposed flanks, leaping onto its back to initiate the raptor-prey restraint. Once anchored in a position of dominance, safe from the snapping beak, they could begin by their patient work. The final fatal strike to the throat, like the one we see in the famous fossil, was likely the last act of the play, a high-risk finishing move on an already weakened and overwhelmed opponent. Next, imagine a far more difficult puzzle, an ankylosaur. This creature was a living fortress, a walking castle of bone. Its back was covered in thick, interlocking plates of armor, and it wielded a tail that ended in a massive, destructive club of solid bone. A single, well-aimed swing could shatter the legs of any predator foolish enough to get too close. Brute force was useless here. This was a test of intelligence, and above all, patience. A direct leap onto its back would be like jumping onto a cobblestone street. The RPR technique would be impossible. The pack would have to adopt a different strategy, one of relentless, gentle pressure. They would become a swarm of annoyances, nipping at its less armoured legs, forcing the great beast to constantly turn, swinging its heavy tail, using up its precious energy. The raptors would be like matadors, dancing just out of reach of the deadly weapon, their own agility, their only defence. The ultimate goal, a prize of unimaginable difficulty, would be to somehow flip the creature over, perhaps by harassing it on uneven ground, or by coordinating a push against its side when it stumbled. It would have required an incredible level of cooperation and understanding. Only then, with its soft, unprotected belly exposed to the skimaki, could the pack move in to deliver the final blows. Finally, consider a puzzle not of armor, but of air, a swift, long-legged ornithomimid, the ostrich-mimic dinosaur. Its defense was pure, unadulterated speed. It could outrun a lone raptor in a straight line, a blur of motion disappearing over the horizon. To catch the wind itself required a strategy of endurance and cunning. Here the pack would operate like modern hunting dogs. They would engage in a relay chase. As the ornithomimid began to outpace one raptor, a fresh member of the pack, having conserved its energy, would peel off and take up the pursuit. They would do this again and again, a relentless, flowing river of predators that simply refused to give up. But they would also use their own unique athletic gifts. While the ornithomimid was built for straight line speed, the Velociraptor, with its rigid, stabilizing tail, was the master of the high-speed turn. The pack would work to herd their prey, to force it into a series of sharp turns, bleeding off its speed, until that crucial moment when their superior agility allowed them to finally close the distance and make the catch. We've seen how they used their claws, their numbers, and their cunning minds to deconstruct the defenses of their prey. But all of this hinges on one final crucial element: the biological engine that made it all possible. How was the Velociraptor's body actually built to perform these incredible high-speed acrobatic attacks? Let us now turn our focus inward, from the grand strategies of the hunt to the quiet inner workings of the hunter itself. A plan, no matter how brilliant, is useless without a body capable of executing it. The Velociraptor was not just a mind, it was a machine, an athletic marvel where every bone, every muscle, and every breath was tuned for the single purpose of the hunt. Let us gently explore this biological masterpiece. It all begins with a paradox of lightness and strength. If you were to hold a fossilized bone from a velociraptor, you might be surprised by its weight. Like the birds that are its living descendants, the raptor's bones were largely hollow, filled not with heavy marrow but with air. This intricate honeycombed structure made its skeleton incredibly lightweight for its size, freeing it from the tyranny of gravity. This lightness was the secret to its explosive acceleration, the key that unlocked its signature leaping attack. It allowed the raptor to launch its body into the air, to achieve the velocity needed to successfully mount a much larger animal. From this light frame extended the long, graceful legs, built not just for walking, but for running. The bones of its lower legs were especially elongated, a classic feature that paleontologists call a cursorial adaptation. This is the same design you see in the fastest running animals alive today, like the cheetah or the gazelle. It is the architecture of speed, allowing for a long, powerful stride that could devour the ground, whether it was in a short, explosive burst from an ambush or a sustained, miles-long chase of a fleet-footed victim. Yet speed alone is not enough. The true genius of the raptor's body lay in its ability to control that speed with impossible grace, and the secret to that control was its tail. A velociraptor's tail was unlike that of any lizard. It was not a flexible, whip-like appendage. Instead, it was reinforced by a complex latticework of long, thin, bony rods that ran along the vertebrae, making most of the tail remarkably stiff. It was less like a rope and more like a pole. Imagine again the tightrope walker, their long pole held out for balance. The raptor's tail was a dynamic, built-in version of this. As it ran at high speed, it could swing this rigid tail from side to side, acting as a rudder or a counterbalance. This is what allowed it to make those breathtakingly sharp turns, to pivot on a dime while pursuing an agile animal, transforming a straight-line race into a deadly ballet. And during the chaos of the raptor prey restraint, as it clung to the back of a bucking, twisting victim, this tail became its anchor to stability. Every lurch of the prey could be countered by a subtle shift of the tail, keeping the raptor perfectly balanced and in control, allowing it to carry out its grim work undisturbed. But all of this, the light bones, the long legs, the stabilizing tail, was just a high-performance chassis. It needed an engine to match. The evidence for this engine lies in the very structure of its chest and spine. We now believe that velociraptors, like modern birds, had a remarkably efficient respiratory system, complete with air sacs that extended into their hollow bones. This system would have allowed for a continuous one-way flow of oxygen-rich air through the lungs, a design far superior to our own simple in and out breathing. This was the power plant. It meant the velociraptor likely had a high-energy, warm-blooded metabolism. It was not a cold-blooded creature, reliant on the sun's heat for a short burst of energy before needing a long rest. It was an endurance athlete. It could sustain the chase for miles. It could engage in a prolonged, violent struggle with a large animal, and it could do so as part of a pack that might hunt for hours on end. Its body was constantly generating its own heat, its own energy, fueling the lightning-fast reflexes of its mind and the power of its muscles. So let us see the complete picture now. A body made light and strong by hollow bones, perfect for leaping, legs built for speed to both chase and ambush, a tail that was a marvel of biological engineering, providing a unique combination of stability and agility, and a powerful internal engine that could fuel this perfect machine for as long as the hunt required. We have now assembled the killer in its entirety, a perfect athlete, armed with deadly weapons and guided by a brilliant, strategic mind. But where does this extraordinary creature fit in the grand scheme of its world? Was it the undisputed master of its domain, or just one dangerous player in a much larger, more complex game? Let us take a final slow breath and allow the image of this perfect athlete to come into focus. We have journeyed through its mind, deciphering the ancient stories written in stone. We have seen the breathtaking audacity of the lone hunter, a feathered demon clinging to its prey in a dance of dominance. We have witnessed the symphony of destruction conducted by a coordinated pack, a silent language of movement and intent turning the hunt into a masterpiece of strategy. We have explored the sharp, problem-solving mind that could dissect the defenses of any creature it chose, and the marvel of engineering that was its body, a machine built for speed, for balance, and for a relentless, sustained pursuit of life. Now, let us pull back one last time to see this creature not in isolation, but as a part of its vast and complex world. For all its lethal perfection, the Velociraptor was not the king of its domain. It was not the apex predator. That role belonged to the true giants, the colossal tyrannosaurs whose footsteps shook the ground. The Velociraptor lived in the shadow of a greater terror. It was what scientists call a mesopredator, a hunter in the middle. This single fact makes its story all the more extraordinary. It had to be brilliant and ferocious enough to hunt its own dangerous, struggling prey. Yet it also had to be clever and wary enough to avoid becoming prey itself. It navigated a world of profound danger, a world where it was both the hunter and the hunted. It survived not just through strength, but through cunning, not just through ferocity, but through vigilance. It thrived on a knife's edge, in a more complex and demanding world than the giants at the very top of the food chain could ever know. And here, perhaps, lies the secret to its enduring fascination. The Velociraptor captivates us not simply because of its sickle claw or its Hollywood reputation. It captivates us because it represents a perfect union of intelligence, speed, coordination, and athletic grace. In its strategies, we see the echoes of the greatest predators alive today, the teamwork of the wolf, the audacity of the eagle, the strategic cunning of the lion. It is a timeless blueprint for a successful predator. The profound terror it inspired in its victims, the fear we felt in the first part of our journey, was not born of simple monstrousness. It was a direct and natural response to witnessing this level of evolutionary perfection. It was the awe that comes from standing in the presence of a true master of its art. In our last journey together, we walked in the shadow of the hunter. We settled into the mind of the Velociraptor, marveling at its sharp intelligence, its chilling athleticism, and the lethal artistry of its strategies. We saw a creature honed to a perfect, razor's edge, an animal that seemed like the absolute pinnacle of predatory design. We came to understand the art of the hunt, but a predator is only ever half of a story. A sword is sharpened on a whetstone, and the brilliance of the hunter is forged in the enduring fire of the hunted's will to survive. For every perfect weapon, evolution crafts a shield. For every deadly strategy, a counter-strategy is born. It is time for us now to gently turn the coin over. We must leave the mind of the predator and find our way into the world of the prey, not as a victim in its final moments, but as the ultimate survivor. This is not a story of constant, panicked fear. It is a story of profound resilience, of quiet community, and of a deep, abiding awareness. We will explore a world lived through senses designed not to target, but to detect. A life built around the calm strength of the group, and a body shaped by the relentless, gentle pressure of survival. We will drift into a world where life was a testament to the enduring power of defense. We will walk with herds of protoceratops across the arid, sun-baked landscapes of the Gobi, and run with fleet-footed ornithopods through ancient fern prairies. Through their eyes, we will see what it truly meant to endure. We've seen the weapons of the hunter, but survival isn't just about fighting back. It is about the 1,000 moments of peace that come before the moment of conflict. It is about not being caught in the first place. So how does an animal build a life, find food, and raise its young in a world where a thinking, calculating predator could be hiding behind any rock? It starts with the most fundamental challenge of all, simply perceiving the threat before it is too late. Let us settle now into the quiet of this ancient world. To understand the life of a survivor, we must first learn to sense the world as they did. We must set aside our own forward-facing, predatory gaze and adopt a new way of seeing, of hearing, of feeling. Let us inhabit the vigilant mind of the Protoceratops, standing under the vast, open sky of the Cretaceous. The first thing you would notice is that the world has expanded. Your eyes, set on the sides of your head, do not see a narrow, focused picture. They see a grand, sweeping panorama. It is a world without sharp edges, a world where the horizon wraps around you like a gentle embrace. This is not a flaw in your vision, it is your greatest strength. You are not designed to study a single object with intense focus. You are designed to notice everything. Your mind is a calm, serene lake, and your eyes are built to detect the slightest ripple upon its surface. A flicker of movement in the distant haze, a subtle shift in the shadows cast by the rocks. These are the things your brain is tuned to perceive. You live in a state of soft focus, a constant gentle awareness of the whole, beautiful, dangerous world around you. Now take a slow breath of the warm, dry air. To you, the air is not empty. It is a library of information, a river of scent that tells 1,000 stories. Your large nasal passages are a delicate instrument, capable of reading the faintest messages carried on the breeze. You can smell the distant promise of rain, the subtle fragrance of the cycads you will eat for your next meal, and the dry, dusty scent of the earth itself. And woven into this tapestry is another scent, one your genes have taught you to recognize above all others. It is the faint, sharp, musky odor of a carnivore. It may be miles away, its scent carried on a high wind, but its message reaches you nonetheless. A quiet warning that sinks deep into your consciousness. And you listen. Your ears, like your eyes, are always open, always sampling the world. You hear the deep, constant whisper of the wind moving over the plains. You hear the skittering of small lizards and the drone of ancient insects. These are the sounds of peace, the baseline rhythm of a healthy world. But you are listening for other things too. Your hearing is a finely tuned net, designed to catch the sounds that do not belong. It can perceive the deep, ground-shaking thud of a giant tyrannosaur from miles away, giving you time to move. But more importantly, it can perceive the subtle, high-frequency sounds of a nearby threat. The sharp snap of a dry twig under a carefully placed foot, the soft rustle of ferns that is just slightly different from the rustle made by the wind. These are the sounds that make the muscles in your back tense, the sounds that lift your head and sharpen your gaze. With these senses you build a map of your world, but it is not a map of places. It is a map of feelings, of safety, and of risk. Ecologists call this the landscape of fear, but for you, it is simply wisdom. You know that the wide, open plain offers little for a predator to hide in, but it also makes you visible for miles. You know that the dense grove of ferns near the river offers delicious food, but it is also a place of deep shadows and blind corners, a perfect place for an ambush. Every step you take is a decision, a quiet calculation of risk and reward, guided by a deep, instinctual understanding of your environment. But the most powerful signal your senses can receive is not a sight, a scent, or a sound. It is the absence of all three. Imagine standing in the warm sun, listening to the gentle hum of the world. Then, in an instant, it stops. The insects fall silent. The small birds cease their calls. The lizards freeze. A deep, profound, and unnatural quiet descends upon the land. This silence is the most terrifying alarm bell of all. It is a shared, collective intake of breath from the entire landscape. It means a predator is close, very close, and it is listening too. Perceiving a threat with such keen senses is a powerful advantage, but an individual alone remains vulnerable. A single pair of eyes can't look everywhere at once. So how did these animals multiply their senses 100-fold, creating a living network of awareness that was almost impossible to penetrate? Let the feeling of that individual, heightened awareness expand now. Imagine that single vigilant mind connecting with another and another and another, until it becomes part of a great, living, breathing collective. The keen senses of one are now the senses of many, a web of shared perception that is far greater than the sum of its parts. This is the profound safety of the herd. On the surface, it is a simple matter of mathematics. When you are one among 100, the odds that you will be the one chosen by a predator fall dramatically. There is a strange, selfless comfort in this selfish calculation. But the true power of the herd is not just in the diffusion of risk, it is in the amplification of safety. A fortress of eyes and ears is now your home. You can lower your head to drink from a stream, or graze upon the low-lying ferns, with a sense of peace that a solitary animal could never know. You can do this because you are part of a pact, a silent agreement. While you eat, others stand watch. Their eyes are your eyes. When they eat, you will stand watch for them. This creates a near-perfect sphere of vigilance. 100 pairs of eyes, scanning every point on the compass. 100 pairs of ears, listening to every whisper of the wind. A predator cannot approach from any direction without crossing the line of sight of at least one member of the group. And when that one member senses danger, the entire community knows in an instant. A sharp barking cry, a sudden lift of the head, a flick of the tail, this is all it takes. The alarm signal ripples through the herd like a wave, a silent, instantaneous message that transforms a group of peaceful grazers into a single, hyper-aware organism. In a fraction of a second, every head is up, every eye is wide, every body is tensed and ready to move. We know this was their way of life. The story is told in stone. In the Badlands of Montana, scientists have found vast bone beds of horned dinosaurs, containing the remains of hundreds, sometimes thousands, of individuals who perished together in a flood or a drought. They lived together and they died together. We have seen the trackways, not just of the predators, but of the prey, countless footprints, all moving in the same direction, a silent testament to a great migration, a herd on the move. And we have seen their nesting grounds, great colonies where dozens of nests were clustered together. This instinct for community, for the safety of the group, was with them from the moment they hatched to the moment they died. Now imagine an attack on this living fortress. A pack of raptors bursts from the rocks. The herd does not scatter randomly. It explodes into motion as one. The ground trembles. The air fills with dust and sound. This is not just a panicked flight. It is a powerful defensive weapon. To the eyes of a predator, the herd becomes a swirling, chaotic vortex of moving bodies, of stripes and frills and horns. It is a mesmerizing, confusing storm that makes it almost impossible to focus on, to track, and to isolate a single target. The individual is lost in the whole, and chaos itself has become a form of camouflage. And sometimes the herd would do more than just run. We can imagine a herd of protoceratops, when faced with a persistent threat, slowing and turning to face it. They might form a great defensive circle, placing the small, vulnerable young in the protected center, while the adults faced outward. Imagine what a pack of raptors would see. Not a collection of individual prey animals, but a single, impenetrable wall of sharpened beaks, solid bone shields, and unwavering, defiant eyes. It is a fortress of living stone, a silent, powerful message that this ground will not be given up easily. A vigilant herd presents a powerful, intelligent defense. But what happens when a predator is too bold, too fast, or too clever to be deterred by numbers alone? At that point, the herd has done its job, and survival depends on the individual's own body. A machine built not for the attack, but for the escape. The herd gives you a chance. Its collective awareness buys you precious seconds, its chaotic movement a shield of confusion. But now, a predator has broken through. It is fast, intelligent, and its focus is entirely on you. The community has done all it can. Survival now rests on a more ancient and personal fortress, your own body. Let us explore the marvels of this living citadel, a masterpiece of defensive engineering, sculpted not for the hunt, but for the escape. First, imagine yourself as the protoceratops. You are not built to run, you are built to endure. Your defense is not in flight, but in facing the storm. Your head is heavy, and for good reason. It is your shield and your sword. The great, solid frill that rises from the back of your skull is not a fragile decoration. It is a vast, thick plate of living bone, a shield that protects the most vulnerable part of you, the soft tissues and blood vessels of your neck. When a predator lunges, you can turn your head, presenting it not with a target, but with a wall. It is a passive, perfect defense, an extension of your very being, and at the front of your skull, you carry your weapon. Your beak, which you use so gently to slice through the tough fibers of ferns and cycads, is also a devastating instrument of power. The fossil record has shown us its capability, the crushed and broken arm of a velociraptor caught in its grip. It is powered by immense jaw muscles, capable of snapping shut with enough force to splinter bone. It is a warning, a clear and powerful message to any predator that getting close comes at a terrible price. And your body itself is an anchor. You are low to the ground, stocky and solid, with a powerful center of gravity. When a raptor attempts its signature leaping attack, it finds you are not easily moved. You are a mountain of stubborn life, a living bastion that refuses to be toppled. Now let that feeling of solid defiance dissolve. Imagine yourself as something else entirely. You are an ornithopod, a graceful, fleet-footed creature of the fern prairies. Your body is not built to fight. It is built to disappear. Your survival lies in the art of not being there when danger arrives. Your bones are light, your legs are long and slender, and your heart is a powerful engine. You are a sprinter. Your entire being is dedicated to the beauty of the escape. Your tail, like your predators, is stiffened with bony rods. But you use this incredible tool not for attacking, but for evading. As you race through the dense undergrowth, making hairpin turns, your tail acts as a perfect counterbalance, a rudder that grants you a breathtaking agility. You are a ghost in the forest, a creature of the wind, and perhaps you are cloaked in a defense that is entirely silent. Your skin now may be a tapestry of patterns, of stripes and spots and counter-shading that allows you to melt into the dappled light of the forest floor. You are a living illusion, a creature that a predator could look directly at and fail to see. Your greatest defense is the quiet magic of remaining unseen. Finally, imagine a body that needs no strategy, a body that simply is a defense. You are a nodosaur, a living fortress. Your back is a dome of impenetrable armor. It is a mosaic of thick, bony plates called osteoderms fused into your skin. Some are flat and solid, others rise up into defensive spikes. You do not need to think about your defense. You carry it with you. You are a walking mountain range, a creature whose very presence is a statement of invulnerability. When a velociraptor approaches you, its entire arsenal is rendered useless. Its teeth cannot grip your armored hide. Its claws slide harmlessly off your bony plates. Its signature leaping attack is met with a surface as unyielding as stone. It cannot pin you. It cannot pierce you. To attack you, a predator must be patient, lucky, and willing to risk injury against your spikes. You are the embodiment of passive defense, a puzzle that many predators would simply choose not to solve. Armor, speed, and weapons are crucial tools for surviving a direct attack, but an animal's life is more than just a series of desperate encounters. It must eat, it must grow, and most importantly, it must create the next generation. How did these animals manage to carve out a life and protect their young in a world of such constant mortal danger? Let us now gently pull our focus away from the individual, away from the single, desperate struggle for survival. The life of any creature is but a brief flicker. The true victory, the ultimate act of defiance in a dangerous world, is to create the next generation. It is to ensure the story does not end with you. Let us journey now to a place of new beginnings, a cradle of life nestled in the heart of the Cretaceous. Imagine a vast, sun-drenched hollow, sheltered by ancient rocks. Here, the ground is not empty. It is dotted with dozens upon dozens of carefully excavated nests, arranged in a great, sprawling colony. This is the communal nesting ground of the Protoceratops. For generations, they have returned to this sacred place to lay their eggs. It is a city of new life, a testament to their deep instinctual understanding that there is no greater safety than community. To be born here is to be born into a fortress. The colony itself is a defense. While some parents journey out to forage for food, others remain behind, standing as silent sentinels. Their watchful eyes scan the horizon, their ears listening for the faintest hint of danger. They are guarding against the obvious threat of a hunting raptor, but also against the smaller, more insidious dangers, a hungry lizard, a scavenging mammal, or a predatory bird from the sky. The colony is a shared responsibility, a silent promise between neighbours to protect the future of them all. And this protection was not passive. It was a deep and personal investment. In the sands of the Gobi Desert, a fossil was found that tells a story of incredible devotion. A creature closely related to the Velociraptor, a Setipati, was discovered frozen over its nest, its feathered arms spread wide, blanketing its precious eggs in a protective embrace. It died there, shielding its unborn young from a collapsing sand dune. This single poignant image reveals a profound truth. These were not animals that simply laid their eggs and abandoned them to fate. They were parents. They felt the powerful instinctual drive to nurture, to incubate, and to protect their offspring at any cost. Imagine the moment of hatching within the safety of this colony. A tiny beak breaks through the shell, and a new life takes its first breath of ancient air. The world is a bewildering place of immense shapes and strange sounds. But the hatchling is not alone. It is surrounded by its siblings, a clutch of new lives all entering the world together, and it is watched over by the immense, gentle presence of its parents. From this moment, a silent race begins. The young dinosaur's greatest defense is to simply stop being small. Its bones, we now know, grew at an astonishing rate. It was a quiet, biological imperative, a race against the predators who saw it as an easy meal. Each day, it grew a little bigger, a little stronger, its legs more steady. This rapid journey to adulthood was a crucial strategy, a way to shrink the window of time when it was at its most vulnerable. And as it grew, it learned. Life in the colony was a classroom. It learned the scent of the right plants to eat from its mother. It watched the adults and learned to recognize the subtle body language that signaled peace, and the sharp cries that signaled danger. It would engage in clumsy, playful shoving matches with its siblings, practicing the skills of strength and balance it would one day need as a full-grown member of the herd. Finally, the day would come to leave this cradle. The young dinosaur, now strong enough to keep up, would join the great moving river of bodies that was the herd. It would find its own place within that vast protective community, its safety now entrusted not just to its parents, but to the 100 watchful eyes of its new family. It has learned what it means to be a survivor. From the first crack in the egg to the safety of the herd, these creatures learn the intricate rules of survival in a world defined by the predator's shadow. But what was that world itself really like? What did an average day consist of? A day not of panicked flight, but of quiet foraging, social connection, and simple, profound existence. Let us now settle into the gentle rhythm of a single day. The struggle for survival is not always a dramatic life or death battle. More often, it is a quiet, steady pulse, a series of small moments and simple acts that, together, make up a life. Let us walk with our herd of Protoceratops as the sun begins to warm the cool desert air. The day begins with a soft golden light spilling over the horizon, painting the red rocks in hues of orange and pink. The herd stirs, a slow collective awakening. The air is cool and still, and the primary urge is a gentle, persistent hunger. The long, cold night has passed, and now it is time to forage. They move as one, a slow, ambling river of life, towards the patches of low-lying ferns and tough, hardy cycads that dot the landscape. The act of eating is, in itself, an act of trust. To lower your head to the ground is to surrender your vision, to become vulnerable, but you do so with a sense of calm, because you know that others in the herd are standing watch. Their eyes are your eyes. You hear the soft, rhythmic tearing of plants, the gentle snuffling and chewing of your family around you. It is a peaceful, communal meal, the quiet hum of life beginning anew. As the sun climbs higher, the heat begins to build, and a deep, primal thirst calls to the herd. They must drink. But the watering hole, the oasis that promises life, is also the place of greatest danger. It is the great crossroads of the Cretaceous, a place where the paths of all creatures must eventually converge. The approach is a slow, cautious procession. The herd stops at a distance, their heads raised, their senses sampling the world. They taste the air for the scent of a predator. They listen for any sound that is out of place. Only when the sentinels are satisfied does the herd move forward. They do not linger. They drink quickly, their powerful beaks scooping up the precious water, their eyes never straying far from the surrounding reeds and rocks. There is a palpable tension here, a shared understanding that this place of life is also a place of death. The moment their thirst is quenched, they retreat, moving back to the relative safety of the open plains, their sense of peace restored only when the dangerous allure of the oasis is far behind them. The afternoon sun is hot, and the herd finds shelter in the long shadows of a great rock formation. The urgency of the morning has passed, and now a different kind of life unfolds. This is a time for social connection, for reaffirming the bonds that hold their community together. You see the young ones, full of energy, engaging in clumsy, playful shoving matches. They are not truly fighting, they are learning. They are testing their own strength, practicing the movements and stances they will one day use as adults. The adults, too, engage in their own quiet rituals. A dominant male might slowly circle another, displaying the vibrant colours of its great frill, a silent, powerful statement of his place in the hierarchy. There is no violence here, only a deep, instinctual understanding of order. These moments of peace, of play, and social ritual are the glue that binds the herd. The trust they build in the quiet afternoon is the same trust they will rely on when a predator's cry shatters the peace. But the hunter is not the only danger in this world. The environment itself is a powerful and unpredictable adversary. Imagine a change in the wind. The sky once clear turns a hazy, angry orange. A low humming sound grows into a roar as a sudden sandstorm sweeps across the plain. The world vanishes into a swirling vortex of blinding dust and shrieking wind. You can no longer see the creature next to you. The familiar scents of your family are replaced by the choking smell of sand. It is a moment of pure sensory deprivation. The herd's greatest defense, its collective awareness, has been shattered. The only instinct now is to press forward, to keep moving, hoping that when the storm finally passes, you will not find yourself alone. As evening approaches, the storm subsides, and the herd, scattered but whole, gathers once more. The setting sun paints the sky in soft, gentle colours. They will find a place to rest for the night, settling close together for warmth and security. Their day has been a journey through hunger, thirst, peace, and unchaos. And beneath it all, there has been a constant, quiet hum. It is not fear, it is something deeper. It is vigilance, a state of calm, perpetual awareness that is as much a part of them as the blood in their veins. It is the silent humming music of their existence, and it is the price they pay for their quiet, resilient life in this beautiful, dangerous world. They lived a life of vigilance, community, and incredible resilience, perfectly adapted to their environment and its many dangers. But this brings us to a final poignant question. We know their world ended. What happened to these ultimate survivors when their world faced a threat far greater and more sudden than any raptor? Let us take a final quiet moment and rest with the herd as darkness falls upon the ancient world. We have walked with these gentle, resilient creatures and have seen the world through their vigilant eyes. We have felt the profound safety of the herd, a fortress of shared awareness. We have seen how their very bodies became shields and weapons, and how their devotion to the next generation was the ultimate act of defiance against a dangerous world. We have learned that their life was not one of constant fear, but one of constant, quiet strength. And in understanding them, we understand their predators more deeply. The perfect, artful hunter could only exist because the survivor was so masterful. The velociraptor's sharp intelligence was sharpened against the whetstone of the herd's collective vigilance. Its lethal weapons were shaped over millennia by the need to overcome the prey's powerful defenses. They were not separate stories, but two inseparable halves of a single magnificent evolutionary epic, each driving the other to new heights of complexity and wonder. For tens of millions of years, these great herds of herbivores were not just surviving, they were thriving. In sheer numbers, they dominated the planet. They were the vast, beating heart of the Cretaceous ecosystem, the engine that powered the entire world. Their story is not one of victimhood. It is one of profound and enduring success, a testament to the quiet power of community, awareness, and resilience. Their lives were a masterclass in survival, a playbook written to counter every earthly threat they could face. They had an answer for the lone hunter's ambush and the pack's coordinated assault. They had a strategy for the heat of the day and the cold of the night, for the drought and for the storm. But their playbook, so perfectly written for the world they knew, had one devastating, unimaginable omission. The final threat did not come from the shadows of the ferns, nor did it have teeth or claws. It did not stalk them on silent feet. It fell upon them in a single terrible moment from the silent, empty darkness of the sky. In our next and final journey, we will witness the day their world ended. We will explore the cataclysmic event that brought the age of dinosaurs to a sudden, fiery close. A threat so immense, so absolute, that no shield, no herd, and no strategy could survive it. And we will discover the faint, enduring legacy that these ultimate survivors managed to leave behind in a world reborn from ashes. At the time the book and movie were being developed, a respected but controversial paleontologist had proposed that Deinonychus was so similar to Velociraptor that it should simply be reclassified as a new species within the same group. He suggested calling it Velociraptor antiropus. The filmmakers were presented with two names for their monster. One was Deinonychus, which means terrible claw. The other was Velociraptor, which means swift seizer. They chose the name that sounded more sleek, more cunning, more memorable. They chose Velociraptor, and so the small turkey-sized Asian dinosaur gave its beautiful, fearsome name to the body of its giant American cousin. Today, the scientific community recognizes them as two very different, distinct animals, but the cinematic fusion was so powerful that it has remained in our minds ever since. This change in scale is more than just a matter of measurement, it changes the entire story of the animal. A human-sized predator hunts other large animals as its primary food source. A turkey-sized predator has a very different life. The real Velociraptor was likely a hunter of smaller game, lizards that skittered among the rocks, small primitive mammals, and the young of other dinosaurs. Its famous battle with the Protoceratops was not a routine hunt. It was the act of an incredibly audacious predator, tackling an animal many times its own weight, like a weasel attacking a farmer's goose. It was a high-stakes gamble, a testament to its ferocity, not its dominance. The terror it inspired came from its perfection as a small, precise killing machine, an ankle-biter of astonishing courage, not a hulking monster that ruled through sheer size. So we have shrunk our cinematic giant down to its true turkey-sized proportions, a significant change in itself. But the movies overlooked another, even more profound feature, a detail that changes not just its appearance, but our entire understanding of its place in the animal kingdom. What was the beautiful, intricate coat that Hollywood chose to ignore? Let us now return to that familiar cinematic creature one more time. Look closely at its skin. It is a landscape of leathery, wrinkled scales, sometimes adorned with a pattern of tiger stripes, sometimes a drab reptilian green or brown. This image is powerful. It connects the creature to our most primal ideas of what a dinosaur should be, a giant lizard, an echo of the swamp-dwelling monsters from the paintings and films of our childhoods. In the early 1990s, when the first movie was made, this was a plausible, if conservative, choice. It was a familiar vision of a prehistoric reptile, scaled up and made terrifyingly fast and smart. But while Hollywood was busy crafting its scaly monster, a quiet revolution was beginning on the other side of the world. In the fossil beds of China, paleontologists were unearthing discoveries that would forever change our vision of the dinosaurs. They found fossils preserved with such exquisite detail that they showed not just bone, but the ghostly outlines of the soft tissues that covered them, and what they revealed was astonishing. These dinosaurs were not naked. They were covered in a coat of delicate filamentous structures. They were covered in feathers. The evidence began as a trickle and soon became a flood. One after another, new species of feathered dinosaurs were discovered. And then, in 2007, came the final undeniable proof for our Velociraptor. A scientist examining a fossilized forearm bone of a Velociraptor found in Mongolia noticed a series of small, evenly spaced bumps along its edge. To a casual observer, they might have looked like minor imperfections in the bone, but to a paleontologist, they were a smoking gun. These were quill knobs. Quill knobs are the anchor points for large, strong feathers. You can see them on the wing bones of a modern eagle, or feel them as bumps on the bone of a holiday turkey. They are the biological hardware that locks the rigid quill of a primary flight feather directly to the skeleton. Their presence on the arm of a velociraptor is direct, unambiguous proof that this animal had well-developed wings. It had large, wound, bird-like feathers, arranged along its arms just like a modern bird of prey. Let the image of the scaly monster dissolve completely now, and let us replace it with the breathtaking reality. The real velociraptor was not a giant lizard, it was, for all intents and purposes, a strange flightless predatory bird. It was covered from snout to tail tip in a coat of feathers. Its body was likely insulated with a soft, downy layer, keeping its warm-blooded engine running efficiently. And from this downy coat emerged its more spectacular plumage. Its arms formed a pair of wings, not for flight, but for balance, for control, and perhaps for show. Its long, stiff tail, we now believe, ended in a complex fan of feathers, like the tail of a pheasant or a turkey, a rudder to steer it through high-speed turns. Forget the drab greens and browns of the movie. The real animal may have been a spectacle of colour. Like modern birds, its display feathers could have been iridescent, shimmering in the desert sun. They might have been adorned with bold stripes, intricate spots, or bright patches of colour, used not for camouflage, but for communication, to intimidate a rival, to attract a mate, or to signal its identity to members of its own pack. This discovery is so much more than a simple cosmetic change. It fundamentally redefines the creature. The insulating down is powerful evidence of a warm-blooded, high-energy metabolism, the engine that powered its active, intelligent lifestyle. The wings on its arms, while useless for flight, would have been crucial for its hunting strategy, providing stability while balanced on the back of struggling prey. It might have used them to shield its young in the nest, or to flash them open in a startling display to frighten a competitor. And most importantly, the feathers are the most powerful, beautiful, and undeniable link between the great dinosaurs of the Mesozoic and the birds that fill our world today. They are the proof that the story of the dinosaurs did not end in fire. It continues in the flight of every sparrow, in the cry of every hawk, in the brilliant plumage of every bird of paradise. The fearsome movie monster was, in fact, just one small flightless member of the great and diverse family of birds. We have now given our raptor its correct size and its magnificent coat of bird-like feathers. But Jurassic Park endowed its creation with one more terrifying attribute: a cunning, problem-solving mind, capable of coordinating attacks and opening doors. How much of this super-genius intelligence was real, and how do scientists even begin to measure the mind of an animal that's been dead for 75 million years? Let us now gently consider the most frightening aspect of the cinematic raptor, the quality that elevates it from a simple beast to a true movie monster. It is not its size, nor its speed, nor the terrible claw it carries. It is its mind. Think back to the stories the film tells us about its intelligence. We hear that it is smarter than dolphins, smarter than primates. We see it working as a team to test the electric fences, searching for a weakness with cold, reptilian patience. We see it execute a complex, coordinated trap for the park's hunter, one raptor acting as bait while the others close in from the sides. And in the most iconic display of its genius, we see it learn, through observation, how to turn a metal door handle, an act of abstract reasoning and fine motor skill that puts it on a level with humankind. This is a creature of nightmare intelligence, a strategic and analytical mind wrapped in the body of a predator. But how much of this Hollywood super genius was real? And how can we, separated by an ocean of 75 million years, even begin to measure the mind of an animal we have never seen alive? We cannot give it a test or ask it to solve a puzzle. The answer lies not in a living brain, but in the silent space it left behind. Using modern technology like CT scanners, the same machines used in hospitals, paleontologists can peer inside the solid rock of a fossilized skull without ever damaging it. They can create a quiet, perfect digital map of the hollow cavity where the brain once rested. This fossil of a space is called an endocast, and it is a ghost of the mind. It shows us the brain's overall size, its shape, and even the proportions of its different regions. We can see the size of the olfactory bulbs, which tell us how important the sense of smell was. And we can see the size of the cerebrum, the part of the brain associated with thought, memory, and complex behavior. Now, let us look closely at one of the most common and persistent inaccuracies in how we imagine dinosaurs. In the films, the raptor's hands are unnervingly expressive. Their wrists are flexible, allowing them to hold their hands with their palms facing down, tapping their claws on the linoleum floor with that unforgettable, ominous click. Paleontologists have a fond, slightly exasperated nickname for this anatomically impossible posture: bunny hands. The truth lies in a small, elegant bone in the wrist. Dromaeosaurs, like Velociraptor, had a crescent-shaped wrist bone called the semi-lunate carpal, which is almost identical to the same bone in a modern bird. This bone was a marvel of evolution, but it came with a restriction. It locked the hand into a specific orientation. A velociraptor's palms could not face the ground. They could only face inward, towards each other, as if frozen in the middle of a round of applause. They were physically incapable of pronating their hands. To grasp at prey or to manipulate an object, they would have had to bring their arms together in a sweeping, hook-like motion. They could not tap their claws on the ground. They could not hold a tool with their palms down. Their hands were a pair of deadly, sideways-facing hooks, not the flexible, expressive hands of a movie monster. Finally, think of the creature's face. The movie raptor is capable of a terrifying range of expressions. It snarls, peeling back its lips to reveal its teeth in a display of pure mammalian rage. This is a powerful cinematic tool, a visual shorthand that instantly communicates the animal's anger to the audience. But this, too, is a fiction borrowed from our own side of the evolutionary tree. The ability to curl your lips in a snarl requires a complex set of facial muscles, the same muscles that allow us to smile, to frown, and to form words. These are a hallmark of mammals. A velociraptor, as a close relative of birds and crocodiles, would have had none of this. Its face was a beautiful, rigid, bird-like mask. The skin would have been stretched taut over the bones of its skull, without the flexible lips needed for expression. The terror in its face would not have come from a familiar snarl, but from something far more alien: the unblinking, forward-facing stare of its intelligent eyes, and the sudden, shocking snap of its powerful jaws. We have now corrected the raptor's size, given it a full coat of feathers, recalibrated its intelligence, and even fixed its posture and the way it held its hands. The movie monster is gone, replaced by a real animal. This begs the question: how did a film get so much right for its time, yet leave a legacy that is so spectacularly wrong? Let us now take a gentle step back from the animal itself, and consider the story that brought it to us. The iconic, inaccurate raptor of the cinema did not appear in a vacuum. To understand its power and its complicated legacy, we must travel back to the time of its creation. The book and the film Jurassic Park were the explosive culmination of a quiet revolution that had been transforming paleontology for decades, a period known as the dinosaur renaissance. For most of the 20th century, dinosaurs were seen as slow, dim-witted, cold-blooded swamp dwellers, evolutionary failures destined for extinction. But in the 1970s and 80s, a new generation of paleontologists began to challenge this dusty old image. They argued that dinosaurs were active, warm-blooded, and intelligent animals, with complex social lives much like modern birds and mammals. The Velociraptor, or rather its larger cousin Deinonychus, was the poster child for this revolution. Here was a predator, clearly built for speed and agility, with a large brain and a terrible claw that spoke of an active, dynamic lifestyle. Jurassic Park took these exciting, revolutionary ideas, which had been slowly building in the scientific community, and broadcast them to the entire world in a single spectacular cinematic event. The effect was profound, and in many ways it was a tremendous blessing for the science of paleontology. The film was, arguably, one of the most successful pieces of science communication in history. It ignited a wildfire of passion for dinosaurs in the minds of millions. An entire generation of children saw the film, their imaginations set alight by the vision of living, breathing dinosaurs, and decided to dedicate their lives to studying them. University paleontological departments saw a surge in enrollment, a wave of new minds inspired to pick up the brush and the pickaxe. Museums unveiled new exhibits to record-breaking crowds. Funding for research and fieldwork saw a dramatic increase. For the first time, the public saw dinosaurs not as static skeletons, but as living, breathing creatures. And the science of paleontology became, for a moment, as thrilling and popular as space exploration. But this incredible success was a double-edged claw. The blessing of this newfound popularity carried with it an unintentional curse. The images the film created were so powerful, so visceral, so deeply convincing that they became fossilized in the public mind. For many, the scaly, 6-foot-tall, door-opening raptor was no longer a piece of fiction. It was the Velociraptor. The myth became a truth more real than reality itself. This has created a strange and persistent challenge for scientists and educators ever since. When the real feathered fossils began to emerge from China, revealing the Velociraptor's true bird-like nature, a part of the public was not excited, but disappointed. They resisted this new reality because it did not match the beloved movie monster they had grown up with. The very film that had sparked so much passion for the science now became an accidental barrier to the acceptance of new scientific discoveries. The fiction, in its perfection, had become an obstacle to the truth. The film's own sequels have found themselves trapped by this powerful legacy. The filmmakers know that velociraptors had feathers, yet to put a scientifically accurate, turkey-sized feathered raptor on screen would be to betray the iconic monster that is the star of their franchise. In a clever moment of self-awareness, the movie Jurassic World even included a line of dialogue to explain the discrepancy, suggesting the park's dinosaurs were genetically engineered to look the way the public expected them to. It is a quiet admission that the creatures on their screen are no longer meant to be dinosaurs. They are movie monsters, forever locked in the shape of their iconic but inaccurate 1993 designs. We have now corrected the raptor's size, given it a full coat of feathers, recalibrated its intelligence, and even fixed its posture and the way it held its hands. The movie monster is gone, replaced by a real animal. This begs the question, how did a film get so much right for its time, yet leave a legacy that is so spectacularly wrong? Our long, quiet journey together is now at its end. We began our exploration in the heart of fear, feeling the world through the vigilant eyes of the hunted. From there, we moved to a place of deep admiration, witnessing the lethal, intelligent artistry of the hunter. We gently peeled back the heavy layers of Hollywood fiction, letting the movie monster dissolve to find the stranger, more beautiful truth of the real animal beneath. And finally, we have walked together through the lost world that was its home, seeing our Velociraptor not as a monster, not as a hero, but as one small, vital part of a vast and breathing world. Let your mind settle here, in this quiet, peaceful place. The heat of the long day is fading. A gentle, cool breeze begins to move across the great red dunes, and the setting sun has painted the high, thin clouds in soft colours of orange and deep purple. The great herd of Protoceratops has settled down for the night. Listen, in your mind, to their slow, rhythmic breathing, a gentle, living pulse on the desert air. From the distant, dark rocks, you hear the call of a velociraptor, not the terrifying shriek of the cinema, but a short, soft, bird-like cry. It is not a sound of aggression, but a simple note in the evening's symphony, a call to its pack as the world grows dark and the first stars begin to appear in the vast, clear and silent sky. This world is gone now, vanished into the deep past, a dream from a time before our own, but its story is not lost. It is written in the bones buried deep beneath our feet. It is echoed in the quiet flight of the birds that soar through our skies, and it lives on in our own gentle curiosity, our ability to travel in our minds to these peaceful, lost worlds. It is a profound and beautiful reminder that our planet has a deep and ancient soul, and that all life, in all its wondrous forms, is part of an endless, gentle cycle of appearance and disappearance. The story is over now. The echoes of the past have faded into a deep and welcoming peace. The ancient world is quiet, resting gently under a soft blanket of 1 billion stars. And you too can find that quiet, that peace, and let your mind rest. The adventure is done. It is time now for sleep.